The Jets lose another heartbreaker on Sunday, and the media once again is out of their minds. The Jets are who we thought they were in a best-case scenario right now. And this is an up-and-coming team that is much further along than everyone outside this network thought they would be after 7 games. We'll break down the loss, highlights, lowlights, and yet once again, we'll call out the critics as Jets Confidential Radio on Prime Sports Network starts now. All right, it's Monday, the 23rd of October, 2017. Order a subscription to Jets Confidential magazine. You can go online at jetsconfidential.com. To introduce my co-host to the show from RotoWire.com, sports writer Jan Levine. And Jan, you know, I'm really being honest, and this maybe does show you a little bit of what I'm about, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, as I often tell my listeners, just to remind them, especially all the new ones, that with the 4 professional teams that I've been rooting for since I can remember, which is over 40 years, I've never had a championship team. So maybe it's because I understand what losing is about, that I was more incensed, I was more upset about what I watched and what I got to hear after the game, like on SNY, than I am to the game. And I think part of that's not part of it. The main reason is because, as I said in the open, there was a possibility, a best case scenario possibility based on the players, that this team was not as bad as everybody was letting them out to be. So we've talked about this every week. You know, you have to have a sliding scale sort of analysis on what we're dealing with here. And when they're not winning games or closing games or making plays because Buster Skrine stinks and Darren Lee's not picking things up yet and Josh McCown's 38 years old, I don't look at it and go, oh my goodness gracious, wow, this is ruining our Super Bowl chances. I'm saying, okay, yeah, but everybody else is doing a pretty decent job. And you know what? When we have a better quarterback, when Skrine's here no more, and either when Darren Lee gets better or somebody replaces him, by next year, we're going to be even that much better. So that's the way I look at it, and I'm just sick of the critics and the negativity when anybody would have been happy at 3-4 at this point.
Well, I think it kind of depends on perspective, right? So as you said, right now, if you would have told somebody before the season they'd be 3-4, we'd be like, okay, that's great. You know, it's not what I expected. It's probably better than what I expected. But, you know, after starting off 0-2 and winning 3 in a row, you kind of got your hopes up a little bit that maybe this season would end up being more than what was first anticipated. And then after last week, even though they blew a 14-point lead to New England, which is not a shock because it is New England. New England always comes back against the Jets and especially other teams. But the way they lost in terms of if the call with the Seferian-Jenkins had gone the way we thought it would be, then they might have had a shot to win the game at the end. And then yesterday, when you go 14 points with 1:31 to go in the third quarter and everything seems to be going your way, and all of a sudden it does a complete 180 the next just about 15 minutes and it falls apart and you lose, then I understand the criticism of certain players. And honestly, that criticism is justified, given that those players were a key component in the reason why they lost. But if you flip it back to, hey, where did we expect it to be and what this year was supposed to be viewed as, then you can have the mindset of, well, even though these guys made mistakes, I'm not as concerned as I normally would be, because the viewpoint for this year is growth. And the viewpoint for this year is getting guys to learn the system or become better in the system, or honestly figuring out who needs to be gone for the future. But it all depends on perspective. If the viewpoint is that, hey, we were 3-2 and we expected them to be better, or they played better than what we thought they were, that's one thing. However, on the flip side, if you balance it and say, well, you know what, they had a shot at being 4-3, or maybe even,
5-2, sure.
By craziness.
Yeah.
But because of what happened the last 2 weeks, then I'm annoyed and I'm frustrated and I'm angry. Then you have to consider that as well.
Well, look, I mean, I don't care. I mean, I take the criticism on the players fine, because that's what players should be criticized, especially Buster Skrine and Darren Lee. And I know some of these guys, I couldn't even believe some of these guys talked about. If you're gonna say Darren Lee had a really good game on Sunday, and you don't preface that with saying, Well, he made good plays, but he also had his bad plays. But at least he made more good plays than we've seen him make. But he still needs to get better. But instead to just say, "Oh, he had a really good game," just shows you these people. Oh, what are they watching? And the same thing with Screen, of course. At least everybody's ripping Screen, but we've been ripping Screen for a year and a half. So it's that's nothing new to us. But look, but the thing is ripping the team, ripping the coaching staff. That is ridiculous. I mean, what are you ripping the coaching staff for? Are nitpicking play calls. You know how many times in the past year and a half, 2 years, when the Jets didn't go for it at midfield at the end of the half, didn't go for it, at certain points of the game. And we had to hear about they're being too conservative. They didn't go for it. Why are they letting the clock run out? And then in this game, they go ahead and go for it. There's an interception, and now everybody's blaming the coaching. How can you do that? Just run the clock out. So, I mean, these people, you can't win with them. It's whatever. I mean, the Monday morning quarterback is annoying, but really, ripping the coaching staff. I mean, this team wouldn't be anywhere near 3-4 if it wasn't for all the new guys that Todd Bowles brought in, which, remember, in the preseason preview show, we talked about it being probably the most important move that Todd Bowles did to try to save his job, with all the new fresh blood and excellent coaches that he had on the staff, which we basically thought was the best staff that this team has had in many years. That's why they're 3-4. Don't rip them now because this play call this play call, they need to be a little aggressive there. They're being outcoached here. I mean, it's just, come on. I mean, seriously. I mean, do we really need to do that?
Look, I don't have any issue, yes, to be honest, with Coach Jeff. Now, you could argue that they quote unquote collapsed down the stretch. I think that's a fair criticism. Now, I don't know if you can really put it on the coaching staff, but I do think it's a fair argument that the team had a 14-point lead and then went too much into a shell potentially in the fourth quarter, though I do think there were some opportunities that were blown partly by more execution than scheme.
Yeah, and penalties.
I have no issue at all with the play call at the end. Let me rephrase that. I have no issue with going for it at the end of the game. You want to argue the play calling? Okay, I don't like necessarily maybe going to the sideline there.
That's a decision.
Your 3 timeouts. You could look to try to get into the middle field, but that's a execution issue. I like the fact that he was aggressive and didn't necessarily play for overtime. In terms of Screen, everybody calling for him to be replaced. One thing I didn't realize today is that the backup to him left the game in the first quarter with an injury, which is common, and there really wasn't a backup available. So how are you going to take him out of the game if there's nobody there available to play?
Yeah, I don't think that. I mean, I wasn't surprised that they wouldn't have taken him out even if the guy was healthy. I've never seen that from Todd Bowles anyway. So I wouldn't expect it. We didn't see Darren Lee get taken out. I think he was taken out. I remember the drive that he had those back-to-back penalties, which just shows you what a great game Darren Lee had when he had the what was it? First he had the face mask penalty, and then he also had the play when right after that he gave up the touchdown, the winning I forget which touchdown it was. I think it was the one that tied the game. And it was funny because even the announcer said it when he zoomed in on Lee after the face mask, and he's like, on me. Yeah, like, really? Seriously? I mean, what are you, a superstar? Yeah, on you. You stink. Okay? All right, terrible play. You haven't been very good. You've made a few plays in this game, but for the most part, this is you. So, yeah, it's on you. Everything's on you. You're not a very good player, and he shouldn't have even been left in the game, but he was. And then look what happened. He wound up giving up a play. I know he was taken off for the Jamal Adams deflection and the interception by Mo Wilkerson, so that was good. But I didn't expect Darren Lee to come out either, and that's been Bowles. So now the question, though, is now that you have the week off, now that you can make that decision and you can either sit Lee for reps, you can sit Screen for reps, you can also sit Anderson for reps, because we've been wanting Hansen or even Stewart to get into more playing time. And if Anderson did not give Bowles an excuse to go ahead and let Hansen or Stewart get more playing time next week to prove to the rest of the team that sort of nonsense at the end of games won't be allowed, all right, well, we'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with that. I mean, look, I don't particularly love some of the stuff that went on yesterday. I mean, again, you can argue against the penalty on Lee, the helmet to helmet. Granted, it was a shot, but the quarterback did duck.
Yeah, that's
at the time
typical
of the
Lee, though.
contact
He
being
actually
made.
makes a sack and then he gets a penalty. That was typical. That's typical Darren Lee. But that one
Yes.
I don't. That one I do. That one's okay. I'm all right with that.
Yeah, I mean, again,
I
it's
don't.
kind of hard. Look, if the guy's going to duck while you're doing it, it's kind of hard. But if you're going to say that every time a headshot occurs, that you need to definitely call a penalty, it's kind of hard for me to argue and say that there's a problem there. And I can't really argue the call. But other than that, beaten in coverage, screen beaten in coverage, and this gets into issues that we've known with Lee for years. He seemed to be much better suited to outside linebacker, which I think you and I have discussed in the past. We both think he's a better outside than inside linebacker, and he's probably miscast as an inside linebacker.
He should actually be playing a 4-3 role. He should be playing a 4-3 outside role. That's what he should be doing.
Yep. But and it's interesting. One is funny. When Matt Moore came in the game, I was actually very concerned when Moore came in the game because A, seeing Moore's done to the Jets in the past, and B, color didn't scare me that much despite him not playing badly.
Yep.
I was way more scared on Matt Moore coming in the game than I was in color, and unfortunately, I was proven to be right. But I also didn't expect the Jets to really do absolutely nothing offensively in the fourth quarter, which is really what cost them the game.
Yeah, and I didn't notice anything myself in the fourth quarter where I went, oh no, they're getting conservative. Oh no, I don't like this play calling. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just not noticing this. And
well, I noticed two things. Two things I noticed is one, they went away from the screen game, which was really successful. And I thought they should have tried to use it a bit more because I thought it was really successful, both in terms of Forte and to a certain extent Powell. And then also, I don't think they granted, Miami probably schemed to take him out of the game. I really thought they should have tried to get the ball to Seferian-Jenkins a lot more. I think that he should have been a bigger part of the game plan. He got the touchdown, that was great, but I do think he didn't get as many targets as I expected him to get, especially in the fourth quarter. If you're looking to grind some clock or create some opportunities, he's the type of a guy that if he's one-on-one with a defensive back, unless he's bracketed on both sides, you try to go to him, or worst comes to worst, run that 2 tight end set and try to hit Tomlinson, similar to what they did last week as well.
And here lies the problem once again with McCown. Is as good as he can play at times, which is who he is. This is what you get. I mean, he is only capable of doing certain things. And what we've seen in the last couple of games is we need a quarterback to win us the game, and he's not that guy. I mean, he can put us in position to win games. He's done that a few times this season, which has been more than we thought. But he's not going to win the game for us. And all right, maybe he'll help us beat Cleveland, but for the most part, we can't expect that to happen. And I think that's the other reason why I'm not upset about going, oh, we could have been 4-3, or oh, we could have been 5-2. Because here's the reason why. Okay, and what does that do? Oh, we win the division. Oh, and what does that do? Oh, Josh McCown in the playoffs. Oh, what's that going to do? So it's like I don't have that thought process in my head. I just go, I'm watching these games every week and I'm looking for improvement from the young kids. Hey, it's great we're winning. I'm not trying to lose. I mean, I'm going, great. I don't want to lose. I want to win. Screw the draft pick. We've talked about the tanking thing. That's what I'm here for as a fan. I want to see them win. But I know what realism is here. There is to think about losses that could have been wins, and where could we be? Again, for what? Well, are we seriously thinking about playoffs or Super? I mean, come on. I mean, that's not going to happen. So let's just enjoy the moment. Let's definitely take a look at the players that hopefully, as you said, which players will be around next year and which ones don't. Hopefully the coaching staff week to week starts making those assessments, starts making the right calls, and doesn't let players stay around that shouldn't be around. And I think that's all we can hope for. And again, I just think that, you know what, look, they're entertaining us every week. We're in close games. We would love to be 4-3 or 5-2, but we're not. But you know what? This is just so much better than anybody thought we were going to be in the beginning of the season. And the fact that we can actually look at this game against Atlanta next week and Buffalo in the next couple of weeks and go, you know what? We can go 2-0. Why can't we go 2-0 the way those teams are playing? That, to think about that as a possibility, that's just fine with me, whether or not they go 1-1 or 0-2.
Well, here's the thing. Do you care in terms of draft pick at this point in time, or you don't care in
Not
terms of
yet.
draft pick?
Too early.
Because at this point in time, look, I think the good feelings from early this year aren't fully lost. The only thing I will say that it matters how they play, not necessarily a record, but more so how they play. But where do we see the growth and the progression, A,
Sure.
and then B, do we see the players still playing hard for Bowles, and do they want him back? And then does management want him back? And then C, where does the fan base land with that? And not that the fan base should matter in terms of where they are in terms of making a decision, but I do think it does matter in terms of how the organization is viewed and whether or not they see progression in terms of growth from the players that need to be getting better.
And at this stage, I don't think there's any doubt in my mind, as of today, if the season ended, Bowles is back. We know Maccagnan ain't going anywhere because he has done an amazing job with bringing in talent to make sure that this team can be in this spot. And Bowles deserves it just for the fact that we haven't said anything about anything dumb that he has done as a coach in weeks. I mean, he hasn't done anything like that flag and, the first drive of the Dolphin game, the red flag. He hasn't done any of that stuff for weeks. I don't remember sitting on this show for the last few weeks going, oh, come on, Bowles, you got to do something. I mean, come on. How are you still doing that? I haven't been critical of him for weeks. And that's the progression that we want to see. And again, you got a nice foundation with the coaching staff. Morton's a first-time guy. Give him some more time. Give him a younger quarterback soon, hopefully this season. And then we're seeing Marcus May develop. We're seeing Adams develop. It was nice to see Wilkerson play well. He's got the nagging injuries. We get that. So, again, and it was also nice to see, Jenkins, boy, not only does he knock out Cutler, which cost us the game probably, but he almost knocked out Moore like a few plays later. So that's something that we've been missing. And, of course, Darren Lee had that hit too. So the pressure that the Jets had defensively in this game was better. This was, if the Jets had won this game, this would have been the best win of the year because they really, for 3 quarters almost, played a all-around exciting game on defense and offense until the penalties and of course, giving up all those late scores at the end of the game and the turnover kind of ruined everything. But they were really close from putting together a game, which I would actually enjoy watching again.
I hate losing. I always will hate losing. I understand the losing. I hate blowing leads, especially leads where you should end up closing out a team and getting the win. But given what our view on the season should be, we are approaching that critical stage because if they do lose to Atlanta and all of a sudden they become 3-5, and given where we see this team going in the future, the thing we've talked about a lot of seeing what we expect from the Jets in terms of Hackenberg or Petty, especially Petty, taking over, we may be approaching that time sooner rather than later. And that's probably the biggest benefit of a couple of the losses the last 2 weeks and seeing where we land the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's the trick, is how much more losing do they have to do in order to make the switch? I don't know. Again, that's why I always say the longer they go hovering close to 500, you have to give McCown another 2 games after that before Bowles decides to let him go. To sit him down. And that's so we're in week 7. He's bought himself at least another 2 weeks. And then if they go 1-1 in the next 2 weeks, he's got another 2 weeks after that. It becomes 4 weeks. So now they do have the Raiders. They do have. Let's see. If you take a look at the upcoming schedule, let's see who is after. You've got the Falcons, the Bills, and then the Bucks, and look how they're playing, and then the Panthers. So the next 4 weeks with 3 games at home. See, it's now time to look back at the schedule as another 4-game snippet, and you go, okay, in these, and actually they have 4 of their next 5 at home. But they're not going to beat the Chiefs at home unless they start playing a hell of a lot better between now and then. So let's just say 4 of the next 5 at home, and you've got the reeling Falcons, Panthers playing like crap, Bucks on the road playing like crap, Bills very beatable. So out of those 5 games, if they're really going to be a playoff contender after this 5 games, they definitely have to go 3-2. But you know what? If they go 2-3 in that 5-game stretch, by the time they go to Denver December 10th, McCown's still going to be the quarterback.
If they do that, I'd be shocked. Let's put it this way. I mean, I think we all know what this team is. I think we're all hoping for growth. Look, Atlanta's played very poorly. They looked horrible yesterday. I mean, absolutely horrific. And it is some of that post-Super Bowl collapse hangover. But you might very well see a very angry Falcons team this week.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I don't necessarily love the matchup with Julio Jones even against Claiborne, or Gabriel going against the second and third cornerbacks on this team.
I'm not worried. They're damaged. They're
Buffalo,
damaged.
We know LaShawn McCoy loves facing the Jets. We know what we're going to see out of Buffalo.
Yeah.
I would say Buffalo is clearly a winnable game, regardless of how poor Tampa may be on the road. Jameis Winston still scares the living tar out of me. So does Mike Evans. But I do think the Jets can score on that team, as evidenced by what Tampa did yesterday defensively. So, as you said, none of these games are games where I clearly put them in the L category, but I don't necessarily think in any of them they go in as a favorite, even though they'll be at home.
Also, by the way, it was nice, even though Demario Davis had a pretty quiet game. Let's keep in mind the game would have went to overtime. That was a big sack by Davis because Miami had a lot of momentum, and it looked like I thought we were going to lose at the end of that game. Before the interception, I thought Miami was marching down, and we weren't going to stop them. We've seen this rodeo before. They'll make one more pass play, they'll kick a field goal, game over, and then Davis comes up with the big sack, and then so that was nice. So I'm saying, I think we without question we saw more tackles and plays behind the line of scrimmage at the quarterback than we have all season. So that's a nice step up. It's what we want to see. We want to see the development. And by the way, Marcus May with the big interception, and he continues to play really well. It's just it's everything we had hoped for in that secondary with those two players, Adams and May, and they're going to be around for a long time. And it's just a great nucleus to hang your hat on, and something to feel good about, and something that you don't have to worry about. And to know that as long as Claiborne stays healthy, you go into the offseason with all this money and draft picks, and, you can bring in one solid DB, just one, and that could change the complexion of the entire secondary and make you a pretty legit secondary.
Look, we both said we love the Claiborne move. Adams is still growing. We expect there to be growth pains. The same we expect in terms of May. Adams has probably struggled a bit more than May's done lately, but I think the upside is still there. I think Adams, who we've kind of seen, is better at the line of scrimmage than in space right now. It's one of the things he's going to have to work on. But we both think that the upside on both of them is tremendous. And if Claiborne can stay healthy and they re-sign him next year, then getting another guy for the other corner is the piece of the puzzle that what they need to make it a really strong secondary.
All right. So, I'm almost getting to the point where when we watch these games, like this game, I mean, I've never been, I don't think I've seen so many bad plays in one, I could probably say most of the game from like one or two players in Darren Lee and Buster Skrine, that I got to the point when I had my show notes and game notes I was writing, I why am I writing anymore? I was like, I got to stop. There's no reason for me to keep writing down how many times Buster Skrine missed a play or had a critical penalty or a critical something. Same thing with Darren Lee. I said, there's no reason, because there's like 10 of them. And I'm not even over counting. I mean, the combined sloppiness of the two of them, I couldn't do it anymore. But again, I look at that as a positive in a way, because those that there's nothing Maccagnan can do at this point. Again, Skrine was a guy that you're not just going to throw away like $4 or $5 million, whatever it is. You're just not going to do it on a rebuilding team. Same thing they did with Forte. That's why those are the two guys that we knew they were going to hold on to. If not, if they would have had contracts like the other guys did, where the Jets would have lost no money, Skrine and Forte wouldn't be here. But, they had to keep a couple of these guys. They hoped that they would play well. Forte's done his job. Skrine is not, and you live with it. And then by next year, when you got new guys and new talent, you just hope that, the team comes together. I know they're talking about, will they stay together? It's a tough time for them. And the locker room, could it be an issue now and it'll be tested? I don't have any doubt in the world that this locker room is going to stay together. And I just don't. I think the only thing that could trash this locker room is if McCown starts to play poorly, like he pulls like a Ryan Fitzpatrick for a couple of weeks, and Bowles keeps him in there. That's the only thing. I like this locker room. I love the way it's developed between the coaches and the staff and Maccagnan, and I feel confident that this team is going to stick together.
So far, we haven't seen any kind of dissension in the ranks. We haven't seen any kind of cracks in the armor where discussion might be an issue. Even the whole thing with Wilkerson, with the way he's played, I really thought he came out this week and finally played like the guy we thought we were going to see when they signed him to that big contract, even though it was questionable whether or not he should have been signed anyway. So if we start to see certain cracks in the armor and the team starts to fall apart a little bit, then I'd be concerned. But as of right now, there's nothing that I've seen so far that we have to be concerned about.
All right, Jan. So appreciate your time as always. And next week, we'll see how it goes. Again, as long as the Falcons do not fire Steve Sarkisian this week, I think we got a shot. I really do. I think the Falcons are a damaged mess. And you combine that with the fact that Steve Sarkisian should never have gotten that job. And the offense is just awful right now. He's the only difference from last year's team to this year's team. So hopefully he stays on the job, and if he does, I think we got a shot. So I feel pretty confident that next week will be a win. And I will say this: if it's not a win, then hopefully McCown has a bad game, and then we can kind of move on to Petty soon.
Agreed. I think the next week or two is going to make the big difference in terms of the direction they go in.
Thanks, Jan. We'll talk to you next Monday.
Sounds good.
All right, that's Jan Levine, rotowire.com. And that'll do it for Jets Confidential Radio on the Prime Sports Radio Network. Again, don't forget to go to jetsconfidential.com to order your subscription. We'll see you in about a half hour with the Arledge Football Radio Network as we recap what top stories in the NFL and college football. We'll have some fantasy talk with Jamal Murphy, and Ken Marangola would join us to talk Washington Redskins, Philadelphia Eagles Monday night game tonight. So we'll talk about that game. So all football, of course, on the Arledge Football Network coming up at 6 o'clock. And then that's it for our coverage, sports coverage today. We had a big day today. We'll have a big day tomorrow. A lot going on. We got baseball, World Series preview coverage tomorrow, NASCAR coverage tomorrow. And what else do we have tomorrow? Let's see. We got tennis, NASCAR, baseball, besides football, of course. And then we have golf on Wednesday, and maybe horse racing later in the week. So wall-to-wall sports coverage. Nets. Forgot about the Nets. That's what I wanted to mention in there. We're talking Nets basketball tomorrow night with Jamal. So anyway, that's on the Prime Sports Radio Network. Thanks for tuning in. For Jan Levine, I'm Greg DePalma, and we'll see you next time on Jets Confidential Radio, where we are the home of the JETS Jets.